Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy Live. I am Andy, and Alex is also online. We are looking right now at a live shot of Shanghai's famous Lujiazui, the financial district. Shanghai is currently still under a pretty wide lockdown based on the rising COVID numbers. We'll tell you those numbers shortly. But first, Alex, how was your day today? The same as all the others?
Same as all, more or less. I mean, not a whole lot. The scenery certainly doesn't change. But yeah, just getting some everyday tasks done, get a little bit of work done. Again, today was another dreary day in terms of the weather. And so,
Right.
unlike the first, today is day 4K. Today is day 14 in lockdown for us here in our location. It was pretty brutal the first 10 or so days because the weather was beautiful, but the last couple of days it's been dreary, and so I don't imagine, other than obviously normally would be going to work, but don't imagine I would be leaving the house even if we weren't under lockdown like this.
Exactly. No, it's a good day to, if we didn't have lockdown, it would be a good day to bunker down at home, watch some movies, stay warm. You can see the Shanghai weather right now on your screen. It is currently the same as last night, 14 degrees Celsius. So it has been raining, like Alex said, off and on. Which I don't mind. Here again is that live view, and shortly, actually, why not? Now we'll quickly check out our colleague Zhou Shenjie, who's out on the streets actually, and we can watch some of that footage coming from him live. Yes. Can you tell where that is? I think they've just left the Shanghai Daily office off to do another.
That would mean that they're under the Yan'an elevated highway right there. So they're on Yan'anlu, probably Yan'an Shilu, and I couldn't quite see what that road sign said. But anyway, they're downtown in the Jing'an area, which is normally one of the most crowded areas of the entire city. Right now, obviously, you can just see some people on electric scooters. I presume that some of those are delivery people. That looks like a truck of some sort.
Rubbish truck.
Yes, a garbage truck. That's what I was going to say. Obviously, those still need to be in operation during this time. We're still creating garbage in our houses, probably more than normal, I would say. So, So I would say, so that's where they are. They're downtown, normally a very crowded area, but obviously not right now. Now, there are some people, even in Jing'an district, who are allowed to go out, but they're only allowed to roam a very small area around their house, and that's because they haven't had any cases in the last 14 days. But most people are still under a fairly strict or completely strict lockdown.
Yeah, that's right. So as Alex alluded to there, we're still under very strict lockdown, even though the city has been split into 3 areas based on obviously the amount of moving residents can do in areas depending on the latest cases in their area. We'll go into that more in depth again shortly. We have talked about it for the last few nights, but it's quite a complicated, well, not that complicated, but a little complicated. So first, I'll quickly read out the numbers from yesterday as we continue watching the live view from the streets of Shanghai Jing'an district. Actually, bad news that yesterday's figures are an all-time high. So the numbers don't appear to be going down. We had 2,573 new symptomatic cases and 25,146 new asymptomatic cases. So the total number of active cases in Shanghai right now, I would imagine, is going to break 300,000 pretty soon. So yeah, we're still waiting for those numbers to come down. But obviously, a lot of questions, Alex, about why it is that the numbers are still so high. And to answer that, we're going to bring in our colleague, Yang Jian, who actually may have some important information on that. So, Yang Jian, can you hear us?
Hi, Andy. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
So I wanted to ask, because you're the reporter for Shanghai Daily who attends all of the press briefings, and so I wanted to ask you, since we're still seeing an increase in the number of cases, and given that the city is locked down and has been fully locked down for about 2 weeks, is there any official idea of why that is?
Yeah, actually, I'm also wondering why. And
Mm.
many people, and I noticed many of our readers are wondering why the number of infections is still at a very high level under the city's strict lockdown and other control measures. Like you just mentioned, the classified three areas. And actually, these lockdown measures have been imposed more than half a month ago. But according to statistics, Shanghai Daily COVID number has been over 20,000 for almost a week. So in case of my residential compound in Yangpu district, positive cases have appeared in a third of the residential buildings, and including the building I live. So in my compound, the lockdown was imposed on April the 1st, and before that, actually there was no single case in my community. So I'm also wondering why. And today at the press briefing, the official from the Shanghai CDC, he mentioned that according to their analysis, there are three main reasons behind the phenomenon. And first, I think the city officials have mentioned for many times that there is always a delay between a new case was confirmed and the number was counted and officially announced. The official said that because there are very complicated process following the PCR sample collection, and especially he gave an example, especially when some abnormal results appeared in a mixed sample, and then everyone must be retested individually. So it takes a long time. And other steps are after the sample collection, such as the evaluation of medical experts through some further inspections, such as X-ray and the epidemiological investigation, also takes a long time. So there is always a delay. So which means that when we see the official daily number every morning on the Shanghai Daily, they actually got infected several days ago. So that's the reason why the number is keep rising even after the strict measures. And secondly, the CDC official said that I think it's a very important point that he said that the transmission among family members has become the city's main route of infection. Previously, I think the main infection among local people are the community infection, but he said nowadays the family members, the infections, cross-infection among the family members have become the main route of infection. And he said since the Omicron variant is highly contagious and concealing, so once a family member infected, their relatives living in the same apartment are just vulnerable. They are very likely to get infected as well. So, and since the dominant Omicron BA2 subvariant has an incubation period of 3 to 5 days, it means every positive case on day 1 will lead to 2 or 3 additional infections between the day 2 and the day 5. So that's the second reason for the keep surging daily number. And thirdly, I think is the most important is that the CDC official warned that the logistics of group buying and online orders could also become the source of cross-infection. And since the group buying has become a lifeline for many citizens during the lockdown, and a local market Wechat has said that the authority also support the legally conducted group buying. But we've also received these warnings and suggestions on our Wechat group that everyone should refrain from ordering the unnecessary stuff to avoid the cross-infection. And today it should be the first official statement on the connection between the online shopping and COVID infections. And he mentioned that if a product was contaminated by the virus, it will possibly cause infection after being touched. So I think it's a very serious issue, and everyone should pay attention to that. And many of my neighbors are also enthusiastic about group buying, from daily necessities to almost everything. So according to the official explanation, that might be the reason behind the newly appeared positive cases in my compound every day. And I think it's more important for us to do some self-production when pick up the parcels and disinfect the surface of the boxes. Yesterday, another CDC official offered some tips on how to disinfect of group buying stuff. He said people should wear a mask and a glove and clean the boxes with the alcohol wipes or spray and put them aside for half an hour before opening them. I think these are very important points to keep everyone safe. Andy.
All right. Well, thanks for that information. We appreciate that. I did want to ask you another question. Obviously, most of the news that we've been getting recently about how this is progressing has been negative. Was there any good news that they shared with you at the press briefing today?
Yeah, I think one good news of today's press briefing is that there are increasing number of discharged patients from local designated and makeshift hospitals. And actually, the number has been increasing for like 3 or 5 days. And today, a record number of 16,000 people have been discharged from the makeshift hospitals and the designated hospitals after making recovery. I think the number has been close to the new daily COVID number of the city. So I think the point is the turnover of these hospitals can be accelerated. And the city's key strategy to cope with the pandemic, which is screening, quarantine, and the treatment, can be better implemented because there will always be unoccupied beds waiting for new confirmed cases in both the designated and the makeshift hospitals. So since the dropping of quarantined patients, I think the living environment of these makeshift hospitals might also be improved, and the doctors will be relieved to focus on those in serious conditions. And the official mentioned that there are 9 patients in serious conditions among cities or infections. So I think that's a good news today. And I think under such condition, people's fear to get centrally quarantined could also be eased.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot of information to take in. It's really interesting, the 3 points you mentioned about why the numbers are still increasing. We'll have a think about that and wish you the best until we see you again, Yang Jian. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks. Okay, like I said, a lot of information there, Alex. Just briefly, I'll go over the 3 points he said as to why he thinks, why the government actually thinks the numbers may be going up. The first one is obviously the lag. So he said that some cases may not appear in the official numbers until a few days after the positive result came out. Number 2 was family members or transmission inside households. We just had a comment from Stephen Riley on YouTube who pointed out if the new cases are transmission within households, that's not too bad. Community transmission is the big concern. So yeah, I share that sentiment. And the third point he said was one that people won't really want to hear, and that is that another point where COVID could be getting into our neighborhoods is through group buying, which Yang Jian pointed out is an essential, obviously an essential part of life today in lockdown Shanghai, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from different sources, different ideas about whether or not it's possible for the virus to be transmitted on the surface of parcels and packages. I've yet to see any case that's been attributed to that. Maybe, I could be wrong about that. There could be thousands of cases attributed to that, but I've yet to see any indication or anybody indicate that that's what's happening. And so just for me personally, it's disappointing to hear that in the statement, because at the end of the day, we all need to get food. We can't just stop packages from being sent. We can't just stop group buying. If we stop group buying, people are not going to have enough food to eat. And so it's disappointing and disheartening to hear that. And the other thing about that for me personally is the quote unquote essential items. Well, what is an essential item? Who makes that determination? Different people have different ideas about what may or may not be an essential item. Who is deciding what I get to have and what I don't get to have? And so hearing that is a little bit disappointing and frustrating for me personally, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, you point out one of the big issues we've had with this lockdown in Shanghai, and that is that a lot of these decisions, like you just mentioned, who decides what an essential item is being left to the Jiweihui or the neighborhood committees. So there doesn't seem to be a standard, if there were a standard list of what are essential items and a standard, procedure for all the other issues we're facing, it might be a bit more acceptable. But at the moment, a lot is being delegated to the Jiweihui. Which is turning out for some people fine. For a lot of other people, it's turning out to be a bit of a problem. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring that. Hopefully, there's some more guidance, and it would definitely be better if a lot more was actually set into a standard that went across the whole city. But yeah, I don't know. Just my opinion.
I have two thoughts on that. The first is, you said it's up to the Jiweihui. Well, I mean, I don't know a lot of the people in my Jiweihui, but it seems like it's a lot of maybe older folks who. Maybe they don't, maybe I don't want to speculate, but it seems to me that maybe they don't like someone in their family consuming some particular product. And so now no one's allowed to have it, which is frustrating to me because it's not my problem. And so I don't like that they're making it my problem. The other thing is, if the virus is coming in on packages and parcels, it's really going to be difficult to curb the spread of the Omicron BA2 variant because, as we said before, and as everyone clearly understands, we can't have zero packages coming in. I mean, even the government packages have to come in of vegetables and everything else. We can't have no packages. And unfortunately, the virus isn't really gonna care that much about whether it comes in on a bottle of wine or whether it comes in on a cabbage. Unfortunately, the virus isn't really gonna pay a lot of attention to whether your item is essential or not. And so I really just don't think that's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a dilemma. Obviously, someone just asked on YouTube, I thought it peaked. Well, it has peaked and it's still going up. So we're still fighting with this situation. Someone else has asked a question regarding, do you guys have any info or comment on the incident in Zhangjiang? Heard it was related to a few buildings converted to central quarantine and people are not happy. We have seen video coming from there. Obviously, we haven't had official word yet, so we really can't comment on that in detail. But we are monitoring the situation. Obviously, some of the video we've seen there doesn't look nice, but we'll come back when we have some more solid information. And somebody else asked, is there any feedback going into the neighborhood community? I think there is a lot of feedback in terms of unofficial feedback. So maybe on Wechat or complaints within the neighborhood and things like that. I'm not sure if many of the complaints, for example, people may be dialing 12345, which is the citywide complaint hotline. I'm not sure if there's time for what may be considered pesky neighborhood disputes at this time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not really sure. I am not the one in my household who is keeping the closest in touch with the neighborhood community. Perhaps given the changing nature of the situation, I should become more personally involved as well. I've kind of left it up to my fiance to deal with, but maybe I should get involved as well because there are some things that I would like to get my hands on that I'm running low on that I'm not sure whether or not they would consider an essential item. So I'd like to get my voice heard on that front. So we'll see about that. The other thing I did want to mention, talking about the peaking, we did see what we saw. Actually, the interesting thing about the numbers today is we didn't see an increase really in the number of asymptomatic cases. It was right around the 25,000.
About the same, yeah.
We also saw a doubling of the number of symptomatic cases from around 1,000 over 2,000. And I was curious. I mean, I don't have any official answer right now as far as why that is, but that was an interesting, if not a little bit worrisome development.
Yeah, we don't have an official answer as to why it is, but we do have some information here on a little bit of information about those symptomatic cases. Like you said, it's about doubled from the day before, so that is worrying. 2,200 of the 2,500 cases tested positive during central quarantine. So that is a good thing. It means they're not out and about in the community. Then about a couple of hundred tested positive during the screening of high-risk people. So that would probably be close contacts. And then the rest were numbers who used to be asymptomatic infections. But yeah, it is a question I would love to know the answer for, and I definitely don't know myself. But yeah, we'll wait and see what comes out about that. But obviously, you guys, if you have any more questions or you want to see what's going on in Shanghai in real time, don't forget to head along to our website, shine.cn, shine.cn, which is the official website of Shanghai Daily. and you'll find a lot of information there in English. But for now, we are going to have a little break, check out some music, a performance from our online concert. I forget when. I'm not going to do it again. But enjoy this, you guys, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
This first one is called Breathwork, so it's a nice one for breathing.
Right.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, that was a banjo, I think. Somebody asked, was it a flamenco guitar? I think it was a banjo. But yeah, that was from our online concert a bit more than a week ago. Now I'm just going to quickly check out some comments. We had a comment from Hazza, China Vlogs. Welcome along. He asked, could it be that they were previously classified as asymptomatic but then developed symptoms? Yes. Of the 2,573 cases for yesterday, about 100 of those were previous asymptomatic cases that developed symptoms. So thanks for your question. Good to see you here. And yeah, that information you can see online at shine.cn, where we have broken down a little bit of information about those symptomatic cases. There was another question somebody asked about where this outbreak came from. Was it imported? I think that is something we're still trying to figure out, but I think it did start, or one of the entry points in Shanghai was actually in a quarantine hotel. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame to see. Now I'm just going to quickly bring up footage of our colleagues, Zhou Shenjie and Gao Laoshi, who are currently on the way to an assignment. They are out and about on the streets of Shanghai. You can see very quiet out there, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we know, most of the city is still under lockdown. There are a number of residents that are now able to roam around within a small perimeter surrounding their in their apartment or surrounding their area. We call that a jiedao, which is basically, I'm not sure exactly how to translate it, but it's just sort of a very small region that the city is divided into a little segment there, a couple blocks by a couple blocks in terms of area. Other than that, and then obviously people who have a special pass, obviously our colleagues are members of the media. Not everyone at our company has this pass. Obviously, Andy and I are amongst the people who don't, so we're inside, but we do have a couple colleagues that are out. And then obviously delivery drivers. We saw the trash truck earlier and other essential workers. Besides that, the city is pretty empty.
Yeah, definitely. You saw before there were some trash trucks, garbage trucks, as Alex would say, and some people here and there on the street doing deliveries. But apart from that, and despite the fact that Shanghai has some some areas who are currently allowed to leave home, you don't see many people, which is a good sign because the government is asking, even if you're allowed to leave home and travel around your sub-district, to stay home if it's not absolutely necessary to leave. We have a comment here from Blue Chuan who said, I think the situation is getting better. There are 20 families with a positive COVID in our building, now only two still with active COVID. No difficulty to access food through group buying. That's awesome to see. Thank you for those comments. Keep them coming through. I just want to quickly bring everybody to the live view of Shanghai Lujiazui, which is also a beautiful shot there. We haven't seen in a little while. This is thanks to our friends at Kan Xinwen, K News. Alex, you still eager to get down there?
Yeah, well, of course, definitely. It's one of the best views in the city. It's one of the reasons why the Bund is one of the most popular tourist spots in the country. Also, the Bund, if you were to turn the camera around from here, you would see a lot of very historic buildings and places in Shanghai. It is one of the most famous places in the country, and this is one of the best views, and this is the iconic Shanghai skyline. Of course, some of it's very much cloaked in clouds and fog right now because of the weather that we're having. You can't see the three giant skyscrapers behind that Pearl Tower you see in the foreground there. But they're still there. They're just poked up into the clouds right now.
They're waiting for us to come back.
Yes.
It's a beautiful sight. Nice to see. Thank you to Kan Xinwen for sharing that view with us. And also, like Alex mentioned, the weather in Shanghai is a bit gloomy there. You can see right now it's nearly 8 p.m. On Thursday, the 14th of April, and we're sitting around 14 degrees Celsius, which is a bit of a drop from a few days before when we hit a high of 35 or 36. So yeah, that is what it's like here in Shanghai right now. Now, last night we had a bit of a touching video from our colleague Zhou Shengjie, who was out on the streets interviewing delivery drivers. Today, Alex, I'll warn you, we have another touching video highlighting some of the many problems going on in Shanghai right now under this lockdown of 25.6 million people. So he chatted with, actually I have some information here. He chatted with Ms. Shi, who is in charge of a meal delivery service to elderly people in Jing'an district, or the area around Jing'an Temple. Since the lockdown started, the number of people who need the service has risen from around 100 to more than 800. So a lot of pressure on those guys providing meals for elderly citizens in need in that area. Let's take a look at his video that he filed today, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
从月经开始，搿当然封城了嘛，好搿个了嘛，伊拉差不多足不出户的时候，我们就开始松了，因为关得太长了嘛，他们都没东西吃了，全都到我们这里来了。
哦，其他的本来不参加的也来参加了。
哦，他们家里没米了，米缸都空的了，你知道吧？哦哟。那么他们打电话过来了，要吃饭，他们要吃饭，我们总会是要供应的，对吧？再怎么样，我们也要给他吃一口饭的。我们已经限年龄了，60岁以下叫他们自己想办法。哦。就是70岁的好，我们现在一天要800多克。疫情前我们总归是120-130克，你多吧？你正好啊？那你里面只有6克嘛？怎么6克？应该是里面应该还有7克哎。啊？里面应该还有7克嘛。以前呢，就是我们刚才一个师傅，他一个人送的。我本来就是这个站点里的，我是管理员，但我不是送饭的。你现在因为人太多了，太多了，师傅送不下，那么我帮他一起送的。我们好像有几个了，有14个人送。14个人。14个人，14个人送的，平均呢，上午呢要送60几克。刚才一个师傅呢，伊送80多克，伊搿能介差的。
那是要送到屋里向门口头的。
对。
搿么现在迭块地方侪解封了，对伐？有好交关。
有个地方对伐解封了，伊拉会得对伐晓得了搿个辰光来了，门口头等了海了。有个人对伐2条杠辣海，
还是勿好进去。
这一颗饭只有13块钱。本来对伐我们这里啊是4个菜，一个大荤一个小荤2个素的，后来呢没菜了，只有3个菜，3个菜呢也是很多的。一个老年人，如果是一个70、80岁的老年人，
根本吃不下，
肯定能吃2顿的。那么大家平均的分一点，大家吃了算了。看过这个疫情嘛，熬过去嘛就是胜利了呀，对不啦？
So another touching insight into the struggles going on the street now in Shanghai during this lockdown over COVID-19. 25.6 million. Obviously, that was, as I said, somebody who provides meals. I think in the West we would call it Meals on Wheels. So
Yes.
normally they provide that service for around 100. That number has shot up as more and more people are relying on help, elderly people relying on help to get the food they need. What were your thoughts, Alex?
Well, I would imagine that their normal customers for this service are people who maybe are not so mobile and are inside their house all the time normally. But now, obviously, there are a lot of people who are up in age, but they can move around. They can go downstairs, go to their local supermarkets to get food, go to a local place to get whatever they need. But right now, they're not allowed to do that, and they may not be very tech savvy. And right now, we're relying on our smartphones and perhaps our computers as well to really do everything from communicate to order food to find information and everything like that. And so for these folks up there in age, senior citizens, a lot of times they aren't able to do that. And if they don't have a younger family member living with them at home, they can really be in a very difficult spot. And so I think that the service that these people are providing is extremely important. I think it is important to remember one thing. I do want to say this is that we see the dabai. I guess that's the term that's become commonplace to describe the people in the not hazmat suit, but the protective suits, the white suits. My friend jokingly calls them stormtroopers, like from Star Wars. But anyway. So regardless of that, my point is that, obviously we get, because of our frustration, and I feel the same frustration, and I'm sure most of us watching do, who are here in Shanghai. We want to sort of blame it on somebody or blame it, that's just the natural human instinct, is to assign blame for things when we're frustrated. I think, although we have seen some incidents of some of the dabai, the people in the suits, maybe doing things that we might hope they wouldn't do. But then also we have to remember that the majority of these people are just really trying to help their volunteers in their communities. They're really kind people who are just trying to help. So we can't direct all of our frustrations at them, even if sometimes we see some of them doing things that frustrate us.
Exactly. No, it's a tough situation. We just had a question, another question from Hazard China Vlogs. He asked, what is the atmosphere in the WeChat groups of your residential communities like? My one, we have a few groups, pretty good actually. There's about 450 people in the Tuangou group doing group buying. And then some people will get carried away with having discussions because they're all bored. And so a lot of the time, some aunties will tell us off and go to the group for chatting, Otherwise, really good. We have about 4 or 5 different groups, depending on, one group is the whole xiaoqu, another group is my building, another group is my A95A, and other groups are for chatting if you want to chat and so on. So yeah, pretty good atmosphere. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, again, I'm not keeping too close of tabs on that, but I do look at it from time to time. It seems that it says that the volunteers and the aunties who are running it kind of make sure that they try to ask us to keep chatting to a minimum. I think that it's more focused on logistics, what's going on, information, when do we need to get a COVID test, what is group buying has proven to be pretty difficult in our community so far, which I'm trying to find a workaround for. But anyway, so it's that kind of thing. I will say that most of the social WeChat groups I'm in are essentially vents for frustration, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's less about it's less about chit chatting. Every now and then there'll be some funny talks. In one of my groups today, they did a group note about what's the #1 song that's gotten you through the pandemic, and so I thought that was a funny little thing. But yeah, anyway, so the point to answer the question is, it's pretty much focused on getting things done. What can we get? What's happening? When was the last case in our compound? Where was it? Things like this.
Yeah, no, I think it's largely quite cordial. Some people are bored, obviously. Not many arguments. People are obviously getting along with their lives, and as it normally would be, I reckon, but to a heightened degree. We have a comment here from a fan of Hedges. Privets are best. According to BBC, people are rioted and screaming all over the city. BBC have reported on those cases. There has been rioting or protesting happening in Shanghai in small pockets, and that is true. And also people screaming. We talked about that last night. People venting or whatever you want to say, screaming out. But yeah, it's all normal. It's not all over. It's not all over the. No, obviously Western media, it's really set up to aim at the negatives and shine a light on the bad things that are happening in society. So that is just what we can expect from the Western media, to highlight those situations. It is definitely not something that's happening all over the city. The city is not falling, but there are pockets of dissatisfaction. Go ahead, Alex.
I do want to say that Western media does this when reporting on things that happen in their own countries as well. Western media has benefits, but one of the negatives is that it's very much, they say if it bleeds, it leads, which means that they focus very much on negative things and exaggerate those things to make it seem like it's the apocalypse. And then that gets their ratings high. And so they do that, especially when focusing on countries like China, which may or may not be seen as an adversarial country to the country that they're in, which makes a lot of sense. So a lot of times when you see Western media reporting on something, it may be partially true, but you've got to take it with a grain of salt, especially the sort of dramatization and sensationalization that they're going to inject into it. So I feel like that's what's going on. Yeah, we all saw the video of the frustrated people screaming out of their windows. Like, we know that happened, right? And I mean, I've even heard a few people, not like that, but a few people out my window screaming out of frustration, perhaps just trying to find some human interaction, maybe. But in any case, it's not happening all over the city. I mean, there's no rioting and screaming and things all over the city. It's just not on that scale.
Exactly. So yeah, just take it with a grain of salt, like Alex said, and you'll be fine. But if you do want to check out, obviously Chinese media is basically fundamentally different to Western media. Chinese media is more aimed at clearing up misinformation, and also part of it also spreading positive news. So if you want to see, for example, our website shine.cn, Shanghai Daily's official website, you can see a lot of reports here are clearing up misinformation from online. So here there was a rumor that there was an arson attack. It turned out that wasn't true. There's two quite handsome guys. No, just kidding. You can find a lot of information here and really get a feel for Chinese media, which is, Alex said before, in the West, it's more if it bleeds, it leads. In China, it's quite fundamentally different. So yeah, do head along to shine.cn if you want to check out the Chinese side.
It isn't just to say, it isn't just to say that nothing negative is ever reported. I mean, we have
not at all. No.
Obviously, we've been talking about some negative stories on our stream throughout this. We are now on day 18. We've had plenty of negative stories to talk about, but you won't see them sensationalized here to the point where we make it seem like the world is ending. And I know that people are frustrated, but the world is not ending. The city is not over. All right. So I think we all just need to take a deep, myself included. I mean, I've had moments throughout this where I felt extremely frustrated as well. And so I have tried to find ways to release that frustration that are, if not constructive, then at least not destructive. So
not destructive.
Everybody to do that as well. And then, understand that this is not the end of the world. And this too shall pass. This
too shall pass. Yeah, we're waiting for that. So I'll just recap really quickly before we let you guys go. Yesterday's numbers for COVID-19 here in Shanghai reached an all-time high. Still not massively higher than the day before, but still an all-time high. 2,573 new symptomatic cases, 25,146 new asymptomatic cases. So we're still waiting for those numbers to come down. We are saying this every day. No doubt we will be jumping with joy when it does happen. But until then, we will continue coming to you live every evening here at the same time, 7:30 p.m. Beijing time. And we welcome your questions and comments as well. But one note, actually tomorrow, Alex and I will not be here for the stream because we will be streaming a live concert. So we're going to take a little bit of a break tomorrow. Alex, what is your plan for the break?
Not sure. Maybe go to bed early. Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Not a whole lot of options going on here. Maybe catch a movie, rewatch The Sopranos. I have no idea.
No idea. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because this is, I think, our 17th. Is it 17th show in a row? 18th show in a row. So yeah, tomorrow will be our first day off for a little while, you guys. So yeah, we will see you the day after tomorrow, same time, same place.
Still tune in tomorrow because there's another great show.
Exactly. And we'll leave you with this awesome view of Shanghai's Lujiazui. See you guys not tomorrow, the day after. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.